Okay, good afternoon. This is day number 153 of making little videos describing a day or thought in the life of schizophrenia. My name is Dominic. I make these videos because I don't believe I am diseased or crazy, but that I experience cognitive war, or what the Indian Joint Chief of Intelligence described as neurostrike weaponry. In day 17 of these videos, I express why I call myself schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. On day 45, I give the reason why I make these videos in the first 3 minutes of that. It's an introduction. Then there's the rest of the day's videos. And on 138, I express symptoms I have as schizophrenic. Not all the symptoms, but many of the symptoms. And so originally, when I was making these videos, I would read 3 pages out of 20 different books, and it would come up with synchronicity, and it would be like time messages through time, or like throughout my day, just happenings or in the world, like political things and stuff. And I haven't done that as much in the second redo of the videos. Like 145 is when I pick up again after a layoff. And so I was gonna talk about like some thoughts that I have that maybe could have got me targeted, or give you an idea of my thought processes and stuff. Okay, so today's thoughts that I had today was that prison is barbaric. And you know, theoretically prisons are barbaric. In practice, they're often barbaric. I think there's like prisons in Norway or like the Nordic regions where they're more humane. Like they give the prisoners TVs, they give them their own rooms or whatever, and there's not an abuse, uh, plausible deniability abuse built into the prisons or whatever. And so it's kind of funny, or not funny, but it's just like in the last 30, 40 years, there was anti-prison movements gained lots of traction in the United States, like abolishing prisons or just reforming them at least. And I feel like the right went apeshit over that, because they wanted to punish people. There's the feeling that you got to punish people in order for them to respond or change their ways or whatever. And so I was thinking that today is like, prisons are just barbaric, and what we allowed to happen in the prisons are barbaric. They had the spark that is like what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. Supposedly, I actually think that he could have faked his death. I'm fairly certain there are people faking their deaths on a wide scale. I don't know where they go. I don't know if they go into like the Galactic Federation, or if they go to like the Caribbean, or I don't know where they go. Maybe they just go underground or go into witness protection. I don't really know, So uh, there's there's been news stories about here and there about like shocking news stories about how like people associated with certain certain agency, or uh, you know municipality or corporation, or uh, like a drug lord or whatever will fake their death and go underground, kind of thing, like someone that's wanted. And so you're pretty sure it happens or whatever, and so you just don't know to the extent it's happening. And uh, I've expressed in other videos that sometimes I get messaging through stories of people dying. Like they'll say so and so died at 86, or so and so died at 62, or and it's like a message to me, and I don't know if they're trying to scare me, or if they're trying to like lighten things up or whatever. I know it's like lighten, but like if they put up a story of like somebody died at a certain age and they didn't die, then you think like, oh, that person faked his death. That was not a real death. And this is like the schizophrenia where like you can't tell if people are alive or if they're not alive. You don't know who's died and who hasn't died. And so that's one symptom of schizophrenia. I don't know if I expressed that in day 138, but yeah. But anyways, prisons are, that's what I wanted to say. Prisons are barbaric and war is barbaric. Violence, violence is barbaric and it sucks everybody down with it. War is murder. And so now we have to watch this all the time on TV or whatever, or uh, I don't. I'm complaining about watching on TV. I don't have a bomb dropping on my head, do I? So, although like Iran threatened drones supposedly, and you don't know is it real? I don't know if it's real, but was it a planted story to justify more draconian fascism in the country or whatever? Or is Iran and America really working together still or whatever? Was that ever you know why would Iran attack California when California opposes Trump and California's governor says that Israel is an apartheid state? It's it's curious why they would have tried to attack California, and I don't know, that's kind of weird, but that was my thought on that. But the voices told me the other day that my destitution or kind of disability or whatever you want to call it, like with what's going on with me, like the not being able to function or whatever, or leave my house very often. It's like supposedly they say it's like a self-inflicted wound or whatever. Like everything that happened to me or like being alone or something is a self-inflicted wound, and I could go over the reasons why that's not really true, but it's like all part of like a restructuring of reality. They're trying to manage people's perceptions about this program and about what's going on in reality. It's called perception management, which I can't remember the guy's name that wrote the whole book about it. I think it was like Chris Simpson or something. And I read that book before I went to college, and then that's what made me choose my major in college. And so then I had basically the war on me to drive me into schizophrenia that transpired shortly after that, or I don't know. I never figured out why they did it or whatever, but so they're trying to manage perception and say my schizophrenia is a self inflicted wound when it is clearly not. It's just trying to drive me crazy. It's trying to get me angry or something, but it's not. And the voices also said, because I get voices sometimes, they said, you die, you will compete. So the voices tell me, you die. So I don't know. You see these stories where they're like, there's theories out there that they can change human lifespan into 20,000 years if they can rewrite your DNA and everything and do all that stuff. And so you wonder, like, where is that happening on some level, somewhere, some way? When do we clone? Are they cloning us and like letting certain people live 20,000 years off planet or something? I don't know. Is that where all these dream realities take us when we go into another reality? Then you hear these things where they're doing like quantum teleportation or whatever. Like supposedly they want to teleport full human bodies and stuff, and like they've already done it to like light particles, I guess, on computer simulations and stuff. So they want to try to do it on a real live person. Then you have to wonder like how long has that gone on in the universe? Uh, if it can go on in the universe is a lot more magical than we realize or whatever. So so the voices said you will compete and you die. So I guess they're telling me that I'm gonna die, or they're gonna, I don't know when, but they're saying that. And they say you will compete. So I don't know what that means. Like they're gonna make me compete. They're constantly trying to make me in competition with the world or something, and I don't believe in that. That is the impetus of my life, is not to be in competition with everybody else, and it's kind of a big scam that they perpetrate on the population to put us in competition with each other. I mean, while we can't have shelter, I mean, wouldn't it be better if we cooperated as a society and made homes for everybody, you know, instead of we're competing in trying to earn, I don't know, that, well, I'll get into that some other time, but it doesn't really make sense that we are in competition all the time and we're competing for scraps from the billionaires who control the system. But they said I will compete, so they're gonna try to make me compete or something. Or, like I said before, I'm not motivated. I haven't been motivated by competition since I was 12, but I'll be motivated by like 15 other things about life or whatever that motivates me and stuff. So the other thing, and some way they tried to motivate me through competition is through sports because they know I like games or like I like sports, but they'll do stuff like ridicule players, and JJ Redick, he was ridiculing DeAndre Ayton because he was inconsistent or whatever, and I was thinking to myself, life is not consistent, and reality is not consistent. The weather isn't consistent. Your day to day is not a consistent thing. There's new things that happen every day. That's what makes life interesting. So why would we expect this like blanketed? I guess I'll say blanketed because some things you want to be generally consistent with when you go about your life, like your principles or something, or you want to be pretty consistent about what you do on a daily basis. But if, this blanketed consistency, like expecting consistency out of everybody all the time when life itself isn't consistent, is like why should we be considered separate from life? And so, I don't know. That was my thought on that. So, uh, I don't know if that made the AI mad or something. Or I was reminded that the Middle East is part of the world, and we are basically at war with ourselves in the Middle East. Like, uh, bombing people in human beings are in Iran if it is happening, and it's the Middle East is part of the world system. It's you know if you go to war in the Middle East, it's going to affect the world system, and like when you kill somebody in another country, it's going to have reverberations around the world, and maybe they don't directly affect you right away, but indirectly they're going to affect you, and uh, you know one way you could say it affected a very more of a direct kind of way it affected people in general is that you had this right wing fear mongering group on the right that was afraid of refugees and they're afraid of immigrants and everything, and so the wars uproot people and they immigrate to Western countries, and then this creates hysteria in those countries about like we're changing, or then this race hysteria and this like white supremacy, white nationalist hysteria, and they use it to take charge of their country. So that's an indirect way in which, or like I said, more of a direct kind of way in which the war in the other countries affects you, because now you're living in like a fascism through the wars that happened in the last 20 years or whatever, like the wars of the last 20 years. led to a very kind of overt kind of fascism in America, and we were already kind of headed that way. Like each succeeding administration was more authoritarian than the previous, and so in their own ways or whatever. So that's what I thought. But then I was thinking, like, in the Obama years, like, if you just go through like the mission statements of organizations and agencies and stuff, they're just a lot more cerebral, and they're a lot more like altruistic, you know? Like there's just like there's more of a like a goodwill to them, right? And the guy that we have now is, if it's like some experiment where it's like he's not like, I don't know. Obviously, everyone knows. So, but I was just thinking the Middle East, or like Iran, is part of the world, and if you go to war on, it's like I'm wearing this shirt right now that's like a globe. It's like the Earth, and it's like this is all one thing, and I don't know what I mean. There's different peoples, but like if we're warring on ourselves, and it's like people, other aliens around the world must think we're stupid, like warring on ourselves and stuff, instead of like trying to have common goals or whatever, you know. So it's like that's that's my thought, and that was my thought today. So I think that's about all I had to say today. I was supposed to go into uh volunteer today, but I woke up with a headache, and my dad has been sick, and my mom has been sick, and I woke up with a sore throat and a headache, and I had a headache for like 2 days. So it was intimated to me that should I should not go in and get somebody sick. So or so it was. Uh, I decided, or we decided that I'd stay home today. So we had a project here at the house that was like oh, this is what I could talk about. Another thought I had today. There was a project here at the house where we had construction workers, and I was thinking about, like, the idea of like uh the false dichotomy of, like, because I was working on schoolwork and they were doing construction work outside, and I was thinking the false dichotomy that you have to either be college educated or go into a trade. And why can't we have? I mean, we live in Western civilization where there was this idea of, or even a human civilization. Okay, there's been other types of ideas like this. I don't know why I said Western, but I was just thinking because of the Renaissance, right? There was Renaissance men, or we call them men, or the Renaissance man, but there's Renaissance women, there's Renaissance people, persons, and so it's like Renaissance people, or like Renaissance men or man or whatever it supposedly is. Like, you learn interdisciplinary, various skills, art, science, architecture, uh, building, intellectual like pursuits, poetry, and it's like suppose like why do we have this weird false dichotomy when we talk in politics about pitting people who have a trade, go into a trade, or people who go into college, or like pitting like one versus the other? Like, we can't teach people to build a house and teach them about humanities or something, you know. It's like, and so it's, I don't, it's, or engineering or science, or, it's like, why why do we have these false dichotomies? And it just kind of makes us kind of like stupid as a public or whatever. And so I guess it's because of the necessity for economic job placement. And it's like, because we don't have like, I guess I thinking about it, it's like because we don't have like our basic needs met by the system to where it affords us to pursue these other skills and abilities. And so it's like, because we don't do that, we are constantly forced to go one avenue or second avenue or whatever and just go down that road and not try to do anything else. And I know there's a lot of people that do multiple things and stuff, and so, but I just thought, like, why do we have this dichotomy? Why are they talking about it all the time on news shows about or in books? You know, I have this book that was given to me about Mike Rowe, and he's like all about trades or whatever. I haven't read the book, but uh, why do we think? Why does he think like we have to do one or the other? You know, and so I don't really understand it, and so yeah, okay, goodbye.